Let's get into the latest Dolphins news and rumors in NFL free agency. Harrison Graham, Chase Sr. here. Will Fuller, 1-year deal up to $10 million. Chase, I know you like this move quite a bit.
Absolutely love it because so far the Dolphins have been silent in NFL free agency. This is a splash move and a splash signing by Miami, a team that was on the cusp of making it to the playoffs last year. Will Fuller had a breakout year with the Houston Texans before he got suspended for PEDs. Here's the issue with Fuller. This is a player who hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout the majority of his career, but when Will Fuller is right, when he is on the field, he is one of the NFL's most elite deep threats. He can stretch the field vertically and be a game breaker, which is huge for Tua Tagovailoa because I don't think Tua blew anybody away in year one with the Miami Dolphins. Now, what's interesting here is Will Fuller signs a 1-year contract, and some might be surprised by that because this was one of the biggest names on the free agency market. This is all a product of the wide receiver market being slow this year. Juju Smith-Schuster, still a free agent. Kenny Golladay, still a free agent as well. But Will Fuller signing with Miami, very interesting because Harrison, like I said, when he's on the field, he puts up numbers.
He's as dynamic as they come. I'm not going to say he's Tyreek Hill level dynamic, but he's in the tier right below that when it comes to taking the top off of a defense. When he's healthy, he is an absolute game changer at the wide receiver position. He's really the perfect number 2 guy because doesn't run the full route tree, but you don't need him to. Hey, go take the top off, right? Like, if they play you in man coverage, guys like Will Fuller, they make you pay. And I think this is a good addition here. I think it also tells me that I'm not saying they're completely out of the Deshaun sweepstakes, Miami, but I think they're saying, look, we got to get Tua more weapons and see if this guy can be the guy. 1-year deal makes perfect sense, right? If things don't work out this year, maybe you reevaluate quarterback if you're Miami after this season. But if Parker is healthy, if Fuller comes in and can stay healthy, you got Jakeem Grant, Preston Williams. I don't think there's a lot of excuses for Tua next year. I think there's a high expectation for him, and now I think there should be with the full offseason and some better weapons at his disposal.
Here's the thing, too. Devontae Parker, really good wide receiver, not a vertical threat at all. So Will Fuller adds that element, which is much needed for the Dolphins offense, and especially at that wide receiving core. And then you also have Mike Gesicki at tight end, too. So this is a pretty impressive offensive unit if Tua can show the flashes and play like he did at Alabama.
We'll get into some more surrounding the Dolphins here, kind of a free agency tracker here for Miami. Former Ravens center Matt Skura signs a 1-year deal, get another player on that offensive line.
Yeah, because Ted Karras left for the New England Patriots. This is a guy who played really well when he was healthy with the Baltimore Ravens. He signs a 1-year contract as well. We're seeing a lot of 1-year deals because of the financial implications. I can't speak because of the coronavirus pandemic. But Matt Skura, coming off a multi-ligament knee injury last year, so he wasn't necessarily the same player that he's been at his peak. But at the center position, Matt Skura, very smart player who could really help Tua Tagovailoa when he's able to call out defensive tendencies, kind of set the coverage plans for that offensive line at the center position. A good signing with a lot of potential for the Miami Dolphins by bringing this veteran in.
And like you say, he'll replace Ted Karras, who left in free agency. And I think that center-quarterback relationship is very important. Even if this isn't the best center out there, it's, you got a young quarterback in Tua that you're trying to find out if he's the guy. You bring in a veteran like this, I think it's a good move. Starting to build that O-line, you get the weapon in Will Fuller on the outside. You saw the Dolphins last offseason. Defense, 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 which is what Brian Flores knows. Now you start working on that offense and building up that thing. So you kind of look at where this offensive line sits now. Certainly not great. I think I would personally like to kick Jackson out to right tackle and draft a left tackle, which could be an option. The Dolphins have a couple of first-round picks. Maybe Penei Sewell becomes an option for them, but I think you're starting to see the wheels turn with this offense.
Yeah, and they needed to bulk up that offensive line because that's a unit that was kind of up and down last year.
Yep.
So Hunt was really good last year. So was Jackson, Eric Flowers, Matt Skura is an addition, obviously, as we're talking about. They also, for a couple weeks ago, traded for Isaiah Wilson, who last year with the Tennessee Titans, he was a first-round pick out of Georgia, and he played like 3-4 snaps. A huge bust, but he went to the same high school as head coach Brian Flores, who I really like, and that is all about potential if they can get his head on straight, because if Isaiah Wilson can play like he did at Georgia,
It's a free
he
player.
can be a long-time starting tackle in the National Football League. The problem is he was suspended multiple times because violations of team rules. He was also on the COVID list.
Yeah.
He was seen out partying during the pandemic, which wasn't a good
Not a
look.
good look.
But the thought is that him and Flores are close, and if Isaiah Wilson can just kind of get in line, he can be a really good player for this Dolphins offense.
No doubt about it. When it comes to the Skura deal, do you like it? If you do, type 1. If you don't, type 2. Give us a thumbs up on the video if you're a fan of this signing as well. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. No doubt about that. A couple other players to discuss. Let's go Robert Foster here, the wide receiver. Probably going to have more value on special teams here, Chase, but gives you another depth player as well on this offense.
Yeah, so he went to Alabama. He actually didn't play much at Alabama, but he did link up with Tua Tagovailoa there. And this is a receiver who, yeah, he's not going to make a Pro Bowl, okay? But he can play wideout. He can play special teams. He's really fast. He's a blazer. He ran a 4.41 40-yard dash at the 2018 NFL Combine. And I think maybe the familiarity with Tua, maybe it brings a little bit out of Robert Foster, because we saw in 2018 in 13 games when he played for the Buffalo Bills that, yeah, he can be a productive player, but in the last 2 years hasn't been that type of guy. But in 2018, when he got consistent playing time, yeah, that vertical threat with some elite speed, caught 9 passes over 20 yards, reeled in 3 touchdowns, and racked up 541 yards. So maybe with Will Fuller there, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, Robert Foster, can kind of be a backup wide receiver who can go in certain situations when you want to run a post route. You want to run something vertically to
10,
stretch
12
the
snaps
defense.
a game, give you a couple of deep patterns. We'll see if that ends up connecting on a few with Tua there. I wanted to hit on this one too, Malcolm Brown. I know this kind of broke out in the last couple of days or so, but the Dolphins' backfield kind of in flux. We saw Myles Gaskin do some good things last year, Salman Ahmed as well, but don't really have that lead back, and I wouldn't say they do now necessarily with Brown, but you got a bit of a decent rotation now. I'll be curious to see, does this take them out of the mix for a running back early on in the draft? We'll have to wait and see, but Brown had a pretty solid season last year for the Rams.
I think this is a pretty underrated signing, especially when you bring in a player like this who has some potential. Yes, he's 27, but you sign him on a 1-year deal worth less than $2 million.
5 touchdowns last year.
There is no downside there. And I thought actually that Malcolm Brown flashed at times with the Rams, but the Rams in his couple of years there, they were trying to find a groove at running back, first with Todd Gurley, then with Darrell Henderson, and they really couldn't figure out who they wanted to be the guy. But when Malcolm Brown got some snaps, and yes, they were limited, he was a pretty productive player. 101 carries in 2020, 419 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's not a guy who's going to blow by you and have breakaway speed, but he is a very physical presence at the running back position, and he joins a running back room that is pretty talented. So Malcolm Brown is going to be a backup for this team. He's going to back up Myles Gaskin, who flashed at times last year before he got hurt. Salvin Ahmed is also a pretty solid player. So I like what the Dolphins are doing here in the backfield.
Yeah, I think adding, again, circulating kind of all these guys, outside of Fuller, not a lot of big names, but just more depth on offense. And I think that's very, very important for a team that was hurt a lot on the offensive side of the field this past season. Grade Miami's running back room, the backfield. What do you guys feel about it at this point? A, B, C, D, or F? I'll go like B minus. Again, you don't have that, that big name where you're like, oh man, we got, prime Zeke or someone like that. But I think Brown was good last year. I thought he ran hard toward the end of the season and is good in short yardage. And I like Gaskin. He can catch the ball a little bit. This is where the NFL is going. If you don't have one of these horses, you're going to go 2 or 3 deep at running back and go with that rotation. So give us a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. How do you feel about the Dolphins' backfield?